Let's keep it 100. Everybody who know me, you know I don't do this. I don't do none of this corniness. Can y'all hear me? All right, cool. Everybody who know me, y'all know my style.
The internet didn't just explode, it fractured. Because what dropped in the last 24 hours didn't feel like gossip. It felt like a betrayal so layered, so unexpected, that even the most seasoned fans couldn't process it in real time. We're talking about a moment that flipped every narrative upside down. A moment that turned loyalty into heartbreak, silence into suspicion, and love into something nobody can clearly define anymore. Because according to multiple sources, Papoose was seen breaking down, after a revelation that nobody saw coming. And that revelation? It involves two names that were never supposed to collide like this: Claressa Shields and Remy. Because late last night, a clip surfaced that has now been viewed millions of times across every platform. And in that clip, Claressa allegedly confirms something that has completely shattered the timeline we thought we understood. Not hinted, not suggested. Confirmed. I'm seeing her. Those 3 words. Simple, direct, devastating. Because if that statement is real, if that moment is authentic, then everything we thought was happening between these 3 was only half the story. And here's where it gets even more intense, because insiders are claiming that Papoose didn't hear it the way the internet did. He didn't find out through reposts. He didn't scroll and discover it like everyone else. He allegedly heard it, privately, before it went public. And what happened next? That's where this story stops being shocking and starts becoming emotional. Because according to a source who claims they were present, Papoose didn't react with anger. He didn't lash out. He didn't even speak at first. He just sat there, silent. And then he broke. Not loud, not dramatic, but enough that the room reportedly went completely still. Because this isn't just about a relationship anymore. This is about timing, overlaps, conversations that may have been happening behind closed doors long before the public ever caught on. Because now the biggest question isn't just who's with who. It's when did this really start? Was this recent? Or has this been unfolding quietly, while everyone was focused on the wrong narrative? And here's the twist that has everyone spiraling. Because while fans are still trying to process the idea of Claressa and Remy being connected, there are whispers getting louder that this isn't even the first time their names have been linked privately, that there were signs, subtle ones, missed ones, ignored ones. And now, they're impossible to overlook, because right after that clip surfaced, another leak followed. Alleged messages, screenshots, time-stamped weeks ago, hinting at conversations that suggest this wasn't spontaneous. It was building, quietly, strategically. And if that's true, then what we just witnessed wasn't a surprise. It was a reveal. And trust this, if what's coming next is even half as explosive as what just dropped, then this story, it's nowhere near over. The first sign that something was seriously wrong didn't come from the clip. It came from the silence. Because right after those 3 words, I'm seeing her, started flooding timelines, reposts, and reaction videos. One person didn't say anything at all. No tweet, no post, no denial, no explanation. Just silence. And that silence belonged to Papoose. Now normally, silence can mean control. It can mean strategy. It can mean someone choosing not to feed the chaos. But this didn't feel like control. This felt like shock. Because according to multiple insiders, what the public saw was only the clean version of what actually happened. Behind the scenes, it was messier. Way messier. One source claims there was a private gathering just hours before that clip went public. Not a party. Not an event. A small, closed-door moment with a handful of people who all allegedly knew something was about to come out. And that's where it happened. Not online, not in front of cameras, in real time. Someone played the clip before it dropped, the insider said. Let that sink in. Because if that's true, then Papoose didn't just discover this with the rest of the world. He heard it early. He heard it raw. And he heard it in a room full of people watching his reaction. According to that same source, when the audio played and Claressa Shields said those words, clear, calm and direct, the energy in the room shifted instantly. At first, nothing. No reaction, no movement, just stillness. And then, he exhaled. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough for people to notice. And then came the moment nobody was ready for. He looked down and didn't look back up for a while. That detail has now been repeated across multiple accounts, because it wasn't what he said, it was what he didn't say. Because according to those present, he didn't argue, didn't question it, didn't deny it. He just sat there, processing. And then one person in the room, identity still unknown, allegedly asked the question everyone else was too uncomfortable to say out loud. You knew? That question? It changed everything. Because if he knew, then this isn't just a betrayal, it's a situation. A complicated, layered, behind-the-scenes situation that didn't start when the public thinks it did. And here's where it gets even more intense. Because another insider claims that after that moment, Papoose didn't immediately leave. He stayed, sat there, and eventually said something so quiet, so low, that only a couple of people claim they actually heard it. I had a feeling. That line hasn't been confirmed, but it's spreading fast. Because if that's true, then this wasn't a surprise. It was a confirmation, and that changes everything. Because now the timeline stretches again, further back, deeper than expected. And suddenly, old moments start looking different, because fans didn't waste any time. Within hours, they started digging old videos, old posts, old interactions, and they found things that didn't mean much before. But now, feel loaded. A comment here, a like there. Moments where Remy Ma and Claressa Shields appeared in the same spaces, publicly or indirectly, and nobody thought twice about it. But now, those moments are being replayed like clues, because here's the part that's making everything spiral. According to a second leak, this time screenshots, there were alleged conversations between two unnamed individuals discussing a shift weeks ago. One message read, "They're closer than people think." Another, "This isn't new, it's just not public yet." Those messages are unverified. But the timing? Too convenient. And the internet? It noticed immediately. This been happening. You're just catching up. He knew more than he let on. And suddenly the narrative flips again. Because now, instead of asking, "Is this real?" people are asking, "How long has this been real?" And that question, it's dangerous, because it opens the door to something nobody is fully ready to unpack. Overlap. Because if feelings were developing before things officially ended, then what does that say about everything in between? And that's where emotions start boiling over. Because while all this speculation is happening, Remy Ma hasn't stayed completely silent. Not directly, but indirectly. She's moving. A post. No caption, just a photo. And in that photo, she's smiling, calm, unbothered, and right behind her in the background, a detail fans caught instantly. A pair of boxing gloves. Now, is that coincidence? Maybe, but in a moment like this, nothing feels accidental, because timing is everything. And posting something like that, right when the internet is connecting her to Claressa Shields, it doesn't feel random, it feels intentional. And that only adds more fuel to the fire. Because while she's posting, and Claressa is staying mostly quiet, Papoose is still silent, no statement, no clarification, nothing. And that silence, it's getting heavier. Because people are starting to read into it. He's hurt, he's embarrassed, he's processing. But one comment keeps popping up more than anything else. He knew. And if that's true, then this entire situation isn't just about heartbreak. It's about timing, secrets. And a story that didn't start where we think it did, and just when it feels like we've reached the peak. Another claim surfaces. This one from someone who says they were involved in a conversation that happened days before all of this went public. A conversation that allegedly included all 3 names. And according to that source, there was tension. Real tension. Not playful. Not subtle. Direct. And at one point, someone allegedly said, "This is going to blow up." That sentence, it feels different now, because it suggests awareness, preparation, and maybe even intention. Because if people knew this was coming, then the question isn't just what happened, it's who decided when it would happen. Because timing like this, it doesn't just fall into place, it's chosen. And if that's true, then what we're watching right now isn't just a moment. It's a release of something that's been building for a long time. And if that's the case, then we still haven't seen the part that explains everything. Because according to multiple insiders, there's another recording. Not the one we heard, not the clip that went viral. A different one, longer, more detailed, and allegedly more emotional. Because if what's on that audio is real, then the version of this story we're reacting to right now is incomplete. And when that next piece drops, nothing, absolutely nothing, will look the same. The moment people realized there was another recording out there, the entire situation stopped feeling like chaos and started feeling like a countdown. Because now it wasn't just about what had already been exposed. It was about what someone was still holding back. And the tension, it was everywhere. Every platform, every comment section, every repost thread, people weren't even arguing anymore. They were waiting, refreshing, watching. Because when a story gets this big, there's always another layer. And then, just when it felt like the silence was stretching too long, it dropped. Not the full recording, not everything, just a fragment. But this fragment, it hit harder than anything before it. The audio was clearer than the first leak. No distortion, no background chaos, just voices, real voices, and within seconds people recognized them. One voice, believed to be Papoose, sounded different this time. Not composed, not controlled, emotional. "You couldn't just tell me?" That line, it didn't just land, it shattered. Because for the first time in this entire situation, we weren't hearing speculation, we were hearing pain. Real, unfiltered, undeniable pain. And the internet felt it instantly, because no matter what side people were on, that moment, it humanized everything. But before anyone could even process it, another voice cut in, calm, measured, and, according to listeners, unmistakably, Claressa Shields. "I didn't hide anything." That response, it changed the tone immediately, because now the conversation wasn't just emotional, it was defensive. And then, just seconds later, a third voice entered. Lower, slower, but just as controlled, believed to be Remy Ma. You're hearing it like it just started. It didn't. That sentence, it detonated the timeline all over again, because now everything points in one direction. This didn't just happen. This has been happening. And that realization, it sent the internet into absolute overdrive, because suddenly, people weren't just reacting, they were reconstructing. Old interviews resurfaced again, moments where all 3 names existed in the same orbit. Events, appearances, subtle interactions that felt insignificant before, now being treated like evidence. And the more people looked, the more it felt like something had been quietly building for a long time. Because here's where things get even more intense. Another alleged leak surfaced, this time screenshots from a group chat that fans are calling too specific to ignore. Unverified, yes, but detailed. One message read, "He found out way before we think. He just didn't react publicly." Another, "They both knew how to move. That's why it never looked messy until now." That second line, it stuck, because it suggests control, timing. and a situation that didn't spiral accidentally, but was held together until it couldn't be anymore. And if that's true, then what we're watching now isn't the beginning of chaos, it's the end of control. Because while all this is unfolding, Papoose still hasn't made a public statement. And that silence, it's becoming louder than anything else, because now people aren't just assuming he's hurt, they're questioning what he knows. He knew longer than he's letting on. He's been trying to keep it together. This didn't just blindside him. And that shifts the narrative again. Because if he knew, then this isn't just betrayal. It's something more complicated, something layered, something that didn't have a clean ending. And that's where emotions start boiling over again. Because now the internet is divided in a completely different way. On one side saying, he's a victim. The other saying, he was part of the situation longer than we think. And in the middle of that storm, Remy made another move, this time less subtle. A short video, no music, no explanation, just her, looking directly into the camera. And for a few seconds, she says nothing. Then, everybody wants a timeline, but timelines don't tell the truth. That line, it sent shockwaves because it didn't deny anything. It didn't confirm anything. It complicated everything. And just like that, the narrative fractured again, because now people are asking, if timelines don't tell the truth, then what does? And before anyone could even attempt to answer that, another clip surfaced. This one shorter, sharper, and far more intense. And a voice, again believed to be Claressa, saying, "I'm not going to apologize for something that already was." That sentence, it pushed everything to the edge. Because now there's no ambiguity, no softness, no attempt to ease the situation, just clarity. And that clarity, it's brutal. Because it suggests acceptance, not regret, not confusion, acceptance. And that's what's making this entire situation feel irreversible. Because once something is accepted, there's no going back. And now the biggest question isn't even about what happened. It's about what happens next. Because behind the scenes, according to multiple insiders, things are escalating. Not publicly, not yet, but privately. Conversations are happening, serious ones, decisions being discussed, moves being considered. And one source claims there was a moment, recent, tense, I can completely off camera, where voices were raised again. Not speculation, not rumor, real. And in that moment, someone allegedly said, "This can't stay like this." That line? It feels like a breaking point, because it suggests change, action, something about to shift in a way we haven't seen yet. And just when it feels like we're at the peak, that final detail surfaces, the one insiders have been hinting at since the beginning, the part that hasn't been released, the full version of that second recording, not the fragment, not the pieces, the entire conversation, start to finish. And according to someone who claims to have heard it, there's a moment in that recording where everything changes, not gradually, instantly, a single sentence, a specific detail, something that reframes the entire situation in a way nobody is expecting. And if that full version drops, this won't just be messy, it will be undeniable. Because whatever is said in that moment is something at least one of them never wanted to go public. And the person holding it? They've already made it clear they're not staying quiet for long. In fact, they posted just minutes ago. You've heard pieces, the full story hits different. And if that's true, then everything we've seen so far is just the setup, because the real impact hasn't landed yet. The moment that final message appeared, the full story hits different. The internet didn't just react, it braced. Because by now, everyone understood the pattern. Every leak had been bigger than the last. Every fragment had shifted the narrative. And if a full version was coming, then whatever it contained wasn't just another detail. It was the detail. The one that would either confirm everything or destroy it. And then, without warning, without build-up, without mercy, it dropped. The full recording, no cuts, no edits, no protection, just raw, continuous audio from beginning to end. And within the first 10 seconds, it was already clear. This wasn't just emotional. This was explosive. The voices were unmistakable. Papoose, Remy Ma, Claressa Shields, all in the same conversation, all in the same moment. And the tension? Unbearable. Because this wasn't staged. This wasn't for cameras. This was real. And the first line that cut through that silence, it came from Papoose. You both knew, and I was the last one to hear it out loud. That sentence, it didn't just hit, it echoed. Because it immediately confirmed what people had been suspecting all along. Awareness, not confusion. Not surprise. Awareness. And then, without hesitation, Claressa responded, You weren't the last to know. You were the last to accept it. That line, it changed everything, because now the narrative wasn't about secrecy, it was about denial. And that's when emotions started rising, not subtly, not gradually, but all at once. Because for the first time in this entire situation, Papoose didn't hold back. You think this is something I didn't feel changing? That question carried weight, real weight, because it suggested something deeper than betrayal. It suggested awareness without clarity, feeling something shift, but not knowing exactly what it meant until it was too late. And then came the moment that everyone online is now calling the breaking point. A pause, long, heavy, and then a sound. Not words, not a response, a breath, shaky, unsteady, and, according to listeners, that's when he broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. Enough to make the conversation feel completely different. Because suddenly, this wasn't just confrontation, it was vulnerability. And that changed everything, because before anyone could even process that shift, Remy spoke again, and this time, her tone wasn't defensive, it wasn't aggressive, it was calm, too calm. We didn't plan this to hurt you. That line, it split the internet instantly, because on one side, people heard justification. On the other, people heard confirmation, because no matter how you interpret it, that sentence acknowledges something real, something that existed before it was exposed. And then Claressa followed up, direct, unapologetic. It didn't start how you think it did. That line? It detonated the timeline for the final time, because now everything people have been trying to piece together, everything they've been debating, everything they've been arguing about, is officially unclear. Because if it didn't start the way people think, then how did it start? And more importantly, when? And that's when Papoose said something that no one was ready for. You could have told me before it became something I had to hear from someone else. That sentence, it hit differently. Because it wasn't about anger. It wasn't about blame. It was about timing. And timing has been the center of this entire situation from the beginning. Because what hurts more than truth is delayed truth. And the silence that followed that statement, it was deafening, because for the first time, no one responded immediately. No defense, no explanation, and just space. And in that space, everything felt final. But then, just when it seemed like the conversation had reached its end, one last detail slipped through. Something subtle, easy to miss, but devastating once you catch it. A reference, a moment, a line that hinted this connection. Didn't just develop recently. It had roots, earlier than expected, deeper than assumed. And once people caught that, the entire internet shifted again. Because now the narrative isn't just complicated, it's layered. Because if this has been building for longer than anyone realized, then everything we've been reacting to is delayed. And that realization, it's heavy. because it means the truth wasn't hidden. It was just not shared. And now, it's all out. Every voice, every emotion, every piece of the conversation that was never meant to be heard. And yet, it still doesn't feel finished, because according to one final insider, there's something else. Not another recording, not another leak, but a decision, a real one that hasn't been made public yet. And that decision will determine everything, whether this situation ends quietly or explodes even further. Because at the end of all this chaos, all this emotion, all this exposure, one question still stands. What happens next? Does Papoose finally walk away? Does Remy Ma fully step into this new reality? Does Claressa Shields say more, or keep controlling the narrative through silence? Because if this story has proven anything, it's that nothing about it is predictable. And the next move might not just continue the story, it might end it, or completely rewrite it. And now you see why this isn't just another headline. This is a situation that's still unfolding in real time, and we are literally watching it change by the hour. Every leak, every voice, every moment we just broke down has only added more questions, not answers. And if what we just heard is only part of the truth, then whatever comes next could flip everything all over again. So now I need you to tap in right now. What do you think really happened? Do you believe Papoose was blindsided? Or did he see this coming long before we did? Is Remy Ma telling her truth? Or controlling the narrative? And what about Claressa Shields? Is she being real? Or is there still something she's not saying? Drop your honest opinion in the comments right now, because this debate is getting louder every second, and trust me, or you do not want to be late to this conversation. And listen closely. If you're not subscribed, you are going to miss the next update when it hits. And when it does, the entire internet is going to explode again. Don't be the one trying to catch up after it's already everywhere. Hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay locked in. Because this story, it's not over. Not even close.